taking an extra step. And check out Sean Corbin really leaning into that traveling call, which I thought, you got a little, look at him, little Joey Crawford in there, right?
I think any time a game of Israel can look like a Flintstones character, I think
right? Producer Bob Murr called up the Joey.
He's been waiting to do that for a while. My favorite one are the block. You run, take 4 steps, and bam, hit the hips with the block.
All that. I like this one though. This goes in the video file. He knew he was doing a Rockets game, and so never mind. Missed contact late in the fourth in Oklahoma City. Josh Hart did his best James Harden impression of slamming the ball into his own face. Of course, you remember Josh had the good look after James did that. Does he need a beard though to pull it off? Because James didn't hurt him because the beard protected him.
That's true. You know what? I think that Josh Hart, we need like a Cam because he does so many funny, quirky things that make you laugh. But no, James was better because it was on purpose.
He was clearly inspired by what he saw in Houston.
That was on
I was
purpose.
gonna say it just looked like you gotta let those moments happen, Josh. You gotta
manufacture them.
There you go. Make heroes. Portland led by as many as 21 in their Saturday night loss to the Pacers. Philadelphia actually only led for 7.9 seconds, but they got the win on that 3 with 0.4 left. The broadcast crew actually diagrammed the play before it happened and said, look for this.
Impressive.
And, in fact,
this was the game of the year. And by the way, Court Mouse, here's the
we're
thing.
6 games
Wait, this
in.
is 2 weeks.
This was fantastic. So far.
Wait, no, we're not accepting that.
But
that's not okay.
Let me say something. Everyone's like, where's Philadelphia can get shooting? Where's Philadelphia can get shooting? They have a really big shooter who can hit these flare screens. This was like a Portland play.
He had Summer League rock and Furkan Korkmaz. Yeah, that was a great play, but not game of the year?
So far, yes.
But again, we're like 5 games.
I'm not calling it 6 months out. I'm not declaring it.
Miss Slip Bomb Friday night in Brooklyn. Russ is at the line, and then we get a quick shot of Kenny Atkinson. I mean, chapstick?
I can't.
Maybe? Does he want some chapstick?
There's
I don't know.
Personal hygiene issues to work out there, probably.
No words.
Kenny.
I'm glad I didn't eat breakfast this morning.
Kenny.
Look, the Nets had a big win that night, and that's what we should be focusing on.
That's not fair.
That's what I'm saying. Make anger! The Kings started 0-5, but they got 2 wins this weekend. And De'Aaron Fox really let out some aggression yesterday against the Knicks. We had a huge block,
a
windmill, a little ankle breaker. Right? Well, here's a windmill.
Oh, nasty.
Nice. And some left-handed.
He loves anime that was like Super Saiyan level.
But we need the Kings to be fun again. I miss the Kings.
That's fun.
Are they riding the ship? Look at this little ankle.
The Knicks, they have some hope.
No, not the Knicks, the Kings.
Yeah, they're shaking off the jet lag. They're speeding it up. Darren's getting into a groove. We need Buddy to come back.
He's making the jump, you're right, but I don't know if this is going to be like the season for the Kings.
Well, they were supposed to break through into the playoffs this season. I expected them to play very fast.
Yes.
The pace the first few games was very slow.
A little gummy.
This was better.
And they had a slow start. Yeah, you're right.
There you go. I want to get to a team that's making noise in the East right now, the Miami Heat. They steamrolled the Rockets last night at home. They led by as many as 41 points during this game. Miami now 5-1 after that win, good for second in the Eastern Conference at the moment. And Jimmy Butler also talking that talk. Here's what he told Yahoo's Chris Haynes about criticism he heard this summer that him signing with the Heat was all about him choosing money over winning. Quote, "Mother blankers act like I am not a good basketball player, like for real. Just think about that. Like I can't come in and make a huge difference." Sinead, basically his point is that when he signed, he made the Heat a place for winning. He wasn't choosing money over winning because where he goes, winning happens, is Jimmy's point. We know the Sixers and the Bucks obviously have high hopes in the East. Do you think the Heat are a real contender in the East?
I think they are because they have good team chemistry. With Hassan Whiteside out, you think about a player that sort of was giving you half and half energy. And those can sort of be, small forms of cancer for a team. Now you have a team that's playing true team basketball, and Jimmy Butler wants to be there. Clearly he's happy. And he says those type of things just to get himself going. That's what he uses as fuel. But this team is number 1 in net efficiency in the NBA for a reason. They play hard on both ends. They play smart on both ends. Kendrick Nunn has, I don't even want to, he's a rookie, but he's a vet. Tyler Hero has potential. They have a lot of good role players, but then they also have Jimmy Butler coming back in at the right time. So yes, this is the place you wanted to be. It seems like all vibes are right. And I expect them to continue to be well just because they have the culture for excellence. Remember in the preseason when conditioning tests where like, oh, why are we talking about vets making conditioning? It's because the culture they're preaching, and it's showing on both ends of the floor. They play hard, they play smart, they're developing talent. That's the Pat Riley culture that we all have come to know and enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, there are two factors for me. One is there are games to be won in this league playing really good defense and displaying core competence. Just going out and not doing stupid stuff.
Especially in the East.
Right, especially in the East. This team, I've watched 40 of their defensive possessions this morning because this is what I do before everyone else wakes up. And it is just, they are...
Some of you drink coffee. Kevin Arnovitz is watching Miami Heat defensive possessions.
This looks like a March defense that has been together for 5 years. As Eric Spoelstra likes to say, everybody on a string. They just don't make any mistakes. They're really hard to score against. The other thing is every guy on that roster is out to make a point.
Yep.
Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson started the other night. Neither were drafted. Duncan Robinson was playing in Williams College.
G-Leaguers.
And they have something to prove. Bam Adebayo has something to prove. He wants to be the best all-purpose center or power forward, really, in the league.
Motivation from not making the USA team.
Exactly. And Jimmy more than anybody, though. Jimmy has something to prove, which is he's been a wanderer the last few years, right? Like, he's not been a guy...
By design.
Yes.
By design, but he is here to prove, look, I am the fulcrum of a contending team.
Yep.
And that hasn't been the case since I was in Chicago. And it's been a long time. And to the point in the text you put up on the board, I mean, he's out to prove that. And so when you have a bunch of people who are basically have something to prove, you put them with a top defensive coach and a top defensive program, a good cultural environment. I'm sorry, is this going to produce 50 wins in the East? It's just going to.
I mean, I also want to shout out the Miami Heat front office because we've known one of the best front offices in the league for a long time. They've had consistency. There were some contracts there in those years after LeBron left that we're all like, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. And some of those have not worked out, in fact. But they kept going after talent, stealing Kendrick Nunn out of the G League the way they did on the last day of the season last year. Obviously drafting Tyler Hero and knowing what he could be. And putting their stock in Jimmy. And there was definitely people when they made that move like, oh, they're going to regret giving Jimmy that big contract. His body's going to break down. And that may happen toward the back end of it. But if Jimmy gets them where they need to be in these early years of that deal, it will be a success. So.
And by the way, especially when you're developing players who are going to play so far above their contract value, that, hey, if it does, maybe it's a little over, it doesn't matter because you can still get core value.
Absolutely. All right, on the other end of that game, of course, were the Rockets, who trailed 46-14 after the first quarter. Houston never led in the game. They are ranked 29th in defensive efficiency right now. Mike D'Antoni said after the game, quote, "We were soft." On a quick note, Russell Westbrook will sit out tonight's game in Memphis due to rest. But Kevin, do you think the Rockets' defense will improve over the course of the next?
I mean, mathematically, it can't get any worse, can it? I mean,
it could because they're 29.
But by the way, and
there are 30 NBA teams, so really, yay.
I mean, this looks like a team that had a Saturday night off in Miami, but I think it's even more than that. I mean, there is absolutely no bite to this defense right now. It's funny. Switching defenses have a certain vulnerability, which is, you're not fighting over anything. The intensity can lag, and I just, having spent the first week of the season down in Houston, it lacks bite. It's a flabby defense with no purpose and no intensity.
Houston lives and dies by the three-point shot, and we think that only affects their offense. It affects their defense because when you take so many threes, they're first in the NBA in taking threes. They only shoot 27th right now. I think James is shooting 22% personally. He shoots most of the threes. When you shoot those many shots and you're missing, those are long rebounds for the other team, easy points in transition for them. So if they eliminate and start making shots, then obviously the Rockets' defense can improve. But other than that, you can make a mistake there because that's makes or misses. They're the worst team in pick and roll defense. In half court, you at least have to hold it down. They're not doing either.
All right, so to your point about Saturday nights in Miami, I'm watching this game yesterday, and I called our research department, one of our researchers, Kevin Haswell, looked up for me. In the last 10 years, home games for Miami on Sundays, the Heat have a record of 39-16. That's 70% winning percentage. So
not too bad.
There you go. Thank you, South Beach.
The hangover effect.
Coming up, first Clay, then Steph, then Draymond, now D'Angelo Russell nursing injuries. Was Golden State's situation here avoidable or inevitable? Ooh, producer Amina's influence coming down onto the jump. We will iron it out next. Stick with us. I just have to say it.
The writer's room is,
like sands through the hourglass. These are the bays of our lives. Lottery season edition. The Warriors lost again on Sunday, this time to the Hornets, with a starting lineup entirely filled with players not on the team last season. This is really like a soap opera. You know when they just pretend an actor hasn't left and all of a sudden some new guy shows up playing your favorite character? D'Angelo Russell and Draymond Green sat out with injuries. Draymond's finger may in fact keep him out for several weeks, right?
Convenient.
Steph's broken hand, Kevon Looney's, he's got the nerve condition now. That's actually pretty worrying. Clay's ongoing rehab from an ACL tear. The Warriors are very young. We might have to change the name of the soap opera from Bays of Our Lives to Young and the Restless. Who knows? There's a lot going on here. These injuries have been overwhelming a team that still had ambitions this year, but because of the D'Angelo sign and trade, the Warriors are hard capped. They have limited financial flexibility, have even deals that they could do or people they could sign out of the G League. So, Shanae, what do you think? Is this inevitable or avoidable, this situation?
I think this is avoidable and inevitable, just because injuries do happen. But if you think about it, like, it's unlucky. The Warriors have created their own luck based on how Steph Curry has matured and Klay Thompson has matured, how Draymond Green has played. They've created their own luck. But the sad thing is that they've run into like an unlucky run with health, starting with last year's playoff run. Not having Klay, KD, Boogie, and Iggy
so
all
you're saying inevitable,
yeah,
right?
It's
you're
inevitable.
saying they didn't have anything to do with it. This wasn't avoidable.
No, this was not avoidable because injuries happen in basketball. But to have this many injuries to one team consequentially, yeah, that's the part where it's like, that's unlucky. But when I think about this current situation, why rush a Steph back? Why put Draymond out there? There's really no point at this point. But it's just unfortunate because for a team that has been at the top, they've created their own standard of excellence, and it sort of seems like it's out of their control right now.
I mean, you could argue, sure, it's avoidable if you don't want to be hard capped and confined. You don't go after D'Angelo Russell as a remedy for the Kevin Durant departure. But I'm with Shanae. You don't lose an All-NBA backcourt to injury and find much success. I mean, look, I think what's going to have to happen in the organization is a change of focus. And they haven't really been doing player development much in the last few years. And why should you? I mean, what is the point?
Yes.
You have developed. As an organization, you have all pro players out there. But I think they're going to have to sort of, frankly, do a little Miami Heat, right? Like, they're going to have to find some of those guys. And what our friend Ethan Strauss is calling Bob Myers' gap year.
Right.
He gets to go to some college gyms. He gets to scout. They might have a top 5 pick in a draft of reasonable depth. I mean, that's going to be interesting. So I think what you do is you take the loss and you sort of reorient some of the organizational priorities around player development, draft talent, and scouting, and you kind of make the best of it. And you come back next year with, hey, 3 All-NBA players, a top 5 pick, a little more wiggle room in terms of financial flexibility.
Find a supporting cast that's getting burned now.
Exactly. Right. And then so, I mean, that's what you do. In fact, I'd rather concentrate all the misfortune in one year.
Right. And look, they're going to keep that pick. That pick would have gone to Brooklyn, right, if they had finished outside the or below the top 20. What are we calling it, right, in the lottery? So they get to keep that pick. To your point, maybe you get a Spursian, David Robinson gets hurt, you end up with Tim Duncan kind of situation, right? Look, at the end of the finals last year, Steve Kerr came out of the press conference room and was chatting with a couple of us reporters, and he kept saying, can't we just take the year off next year? He's like, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. And of course he was joking around, but we heard for 5 years about the mental and physical toll that the Warriors were under and what it took on them. And we saw it. These injuries, to me, are not a run of bad luck. I don't think it's a coincidence. Now, it's not to say it's avoidable. The avoiding would have been don't go to 5, all these straight finals. But I just think that when you run these guys into the ground the way it was necessitated to have that incredible run, mentally and physically, I don't think it's a coincidence that Klay gets hurt, that Kevin gets hurt, that Steph now here gets hurt. A bad fall, right, is a bad fall. I mean, one of those things could have happened. But the way the human body is supposed to be under stress for that long, I don't know. To me, this is something that we couldn't have predicted, but I'm not shocked by the
it's funny. There's a story in my file. Every, I think, reporter and writer has a few stories that you kind of have in the bank, and you haven't really. And one of mine was the case for the NBA sabbatical.
Right.
And that the teams and players of certain levels of achievement, maybe every 7 years, you kind of just pack it in and you do it like some of these folks over in Europe do, and you're just going to go and you go to an ashram or you go to a retreat and you do this. But by the way, and I'm joking, but Is there a career that's more intense than NBA champion?
Look, it is a medical fact that you are more susceptible to injury. The more stress you put on your body, the more tired you are.
And it's mental stress
So
as well.
I am not saying that, oh my God, none of these things would have happened if they had played only 82 games a year. But the fact that we saw this run of injuries from this team, I don't think it is a total coincidence.
Total agreement.
And the fact that, as you say, it's all concentrated in one point, could end up with a very good franchise next year all over again, because that's the Warriors' way. Knicks rookie R.J. Barrett, let's talk about him. He played 41 minutes last night against the Kings. Was I just talking about the stress that's put on the human body?
Right.
This was despite New York spending all of the fourth quarter behind by at least 15. Some critics from Knicks Nation, but Coach David Fizdale defended it. Take a listen.
Played 41 minutes total. You guys were losing by 20 at that point. He's already put on a lot. Do you worry about the stress you're putting on?
He's got the day off tomorrow. We gotta get off of this load management crap. Latrell Sprewell averaged 42 minutes for a season. Like, this kid's 19 years old. Like, drop it already.
Kevin, take that for data.
Yeah, okay. So I want to clear something up, because I think this is a little bit like the twos versus threes debate. There's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what's being discussed. Load management is not, oh, don't play this guy for more than 38 minutes. Load management is a holistic program that includes everything from monitoring force and exertion at practices, individual workouts, weight training, travel, off-season regimen, and yes, minutes recorded in live play. But I just think that, like, if the question is it a problem that R.J. Barrett played 41 minutes in November before a night off? No. Now, if you ask me, is it a problem if R.J. Barrett plays 9,000 minutes over his first 3 NBA seasons without the requisite monitoring of his output? Yeah, that would concern me a little bit. But I think that, like, people sort of jump on load management as this catch-all for not wanting guys to play too many minutes. It is a much more holistic program. And if R.J. Barrett is like, say, Kawhi Leonard, where the level of intention and magnitude on everything, yeah, he needs to be careful. If he's like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who, yes, certainly needs to be monitored, but can absorb so much more force, that's a different story. But I just think there's sort of, I agree and disagree with Fizdale. Load management isn't crap, but it's also not, oh, don't play 41 minutes in November.
Well, my exception, and you said 3 years playing a lot of minutes, to me it's okay for your first year. As a rookie, when you come into the league, it's a big adjustment. And you know, myself, when I was playing in the WNBA, I came straight off the Final Four, and then you jump into the WNBA. Like, you want to play as much as possible when you're a rookie. Like, that's the ultimate form of a compliment. And I think the reason why Fizdale's so defensive is because RJ's number one in usage on that team. He's giving you 18, 6, and 3. He's shooting like 43%, 37 from 3. So yes, you need him out there to compete, and they want to bring hope to the Garden. But I think it's allowed to play a rookie a lot their first year, just because they want to. They're that hungry to compete against everyone. But later on is where you have these conversations like, all right, he's the franchise guy. Maybe we should slow down and create a system that has a lot of backing behind science and really call it, I guess, load management.
Right. And the performance people tell you played 41 minutes and you got a night off. Great. So let's make these precautions for the next 1 to 10 days following the 41. And if the Knicks are doing that, great. Right. I think it's a much larger conversation. Again, I think we're getting kind of confined by this, just looking at the box score and saying, oh, a 4 in front of a number.
Minutes, yeah.
Oh, it's too many. No, it's a much larger, expansive evaluation of a player's output in force.
I mean, look, it's the same answer it is normally in the NBA. It's not all one thing.
Right.
There is some nuance here. We will see how that develops with RJ. Coming up, we're going to talk about Kawhi Leonard and Doc Rivers, because they both reference the claw's physical similarities to one, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. We will talk about whether that is the best comparison for the reigning Finals MVP. Again, they didn't say that he was like Jordan. They were talking about his physical stature as a basketball player. Here's what the Jump recommends for today. This is so awesome. The LeBron James Family Foundation announced plans for the I Promise Village by Graduate Hotels. This village intended to provide immediate shelter, safety, and support so that students are still able to attend school, as the foundation assists families with long-term plans for future success if they're in an abusive situation, if they find themselves homeless. This stuff is important, and they are really, really going to bat for these kids.